Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, I always start every show talking about how I'm doing. I want to hear about your 4th of July. Tell me every last thing. How was your Independence Day? Did you have a good time? Did you have a cookout? Doesn't look like you got super sunburned. So I guess that's good.
No, it was good. It was good. I lost the shotgun contest to my mother. She shotgunned 4 beers. I only did 2.5. So I'm not embarrassed. I'm proud. So thank you, Tom, for asking. I don't know if she wanted that out there, but it is what it is.
You said shotgun contest, and I thought this could go one of 2 ways, and I'm not sure which of the ways it's going to go. So I guess that was one of the 2 most responsible ways it could have gone. So that's good.
Yep, I'm nothing if not responsible.
Nothing it is. All right, good.
Tom, I'm glad to hear that I'm doing okay. Thank you for asking. So today's show is something that we're finishing up listener questions from many weeks ago, finishing up this one that we held off on because we really wanted to take a deeper dive, really explore the room. And that was, I don't even have the exact question.
I do.
Okay, good. Thank you, Tom.
This is from @Isaac McIntyre, and this is a great one. If both of you were commissioners of college football in the hypothetical situation where they exist, and you were given the power to change anything in the sport, what would it be and why? And it was a great question because it's like you could go any of a million different directions with this. And you said you got suggestions on Twitter on some answers from listeners. You want to throw some of those out there before we do some of ours?
Yeah, I asked on Twitter a couple weeks back, and I stopped reading it about 50 or 55 suggestions, replies. A lot of it is they want NIL regulated, which I understand. They want targeting addressed, which I understand. That's also one of the things I've mentioned, and we'll talk about it. But, shortening the game, fewer TV timeouts, these are all like practical things. I was hoping for just some like kind of off the wall that nobody is thinking about. And I can scroll through here and I don't know that I got too many of those. It's a lot of playoff stuff and things like that. I also have things like that, but I was just expecting some, I hadn't thought about that. That's what I was hoping for. And I don't know that I got a lot of, although there was one that I liked as I'm recalling. If you are on the ground when you catch a ball, you are allowed to get up and run because I don't know the logic behind it, but I thought, you know what, that's interesting. You haven't been tackled or you were never like up with the ball. So you should at least be able to be up with the ball before you have to be down with the ball. Tom, what do you think about that one?
So are we talking about like just the NFL rule where you have to be touched while you're down, or even if you're touched while you're down, you're allowed to get up?
No, if you're touched while you're down, I mean, you're down. But like, I do think it's just one of those off the wall types of things. Like that makes no sense, but sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean that's not a bad one because you have plays where you'll have a wide receiver wide open and he slips and he goes down, but there's not a defender within 10 yards of him. Sure, you should be able to get. I mean, make the defense do their job. Don't just let the the guy tripping over the 30-yard line do the defense's job for him.
But I think he's saying if you're on the ground when you catch the ball, you're allowed to get up and run.
Okay. Well, let's see. Someone caught a pass flat on their back at Nebraska a couple years ago.
Jeff Okudah.
That was Jeff Okudah caught an interception on his back at Nebraska. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you do that, like, yeah, you deserve the opportunity to make a play. Like that was like, all right. I mean, think of all the plays we've seen, and that one still popped out to my head immediately. Like, yeah, I think you deserve a chance. I like that. So it is ruled. It's in. Good. Notify the NCAA.
I had another suggestion, and you may get into this one. I don't know, Tom. Relegation.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yep.
That is very, very big. I don't know that one person has the power to do it, but hey, we've been granted blanket power here. Like that is very interesting to me. And I've been against the soccerization of America for many, 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 many years, but there is some fun to relegation where college football is this fluid thing that, that it's constant change, even though people are afraid of the constant change. That's the great thing about college football and college sports is that the teams change every single year. But positioning and, stability, that's a huge sweeping change if you bring in relegation.
Yeah, and that's one of mine, and it's part of. Well, I think we should let's hold off on the relegation conversation because I feel like there's other stuff I want to set up first before we get there. But suffice it to say, yes, that is on my list for sure.
Can I go with my first big thing that is probably my best idea since I came up with the idea of putting ice cream cones in ice cream, like broken up ice cream cone bits and ice cream cone flavor ice cream, which is, one day. But as commissioner, we're gonna unify. We're gonna what everybody has to play the same number of non-conference games, be it 8 or 9. I don't care which, but I control one of those non-conference games. I get to tell you who you're playing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a holiday tournament. Now, it's not going to be a tournament, but you know how basketball has these holiday tournaments? I'm creating a Labor Day weekend tournament where I determine your opening week opponent. And because in my scenario, there will also be playoffs, so non-conference losses don't matter, essentially. Like, if you lose, it's not the end of the world. You don't need to go undefeated. But, and I'm going to base it off of the top 16 rankings from the final college football playoff. So basically, it's the top 16 teams, and the top 4 teams host games. And then also they will also host that location. Say Alabama will host a game. They will also the site will host another game played by 2 other teams in that top 16. So I have essentially kind of eliminated neutral sites, but neutral sites will be college campuses. So let me give you an example, Tom. So Alabama, and I randomized the 5 to 12. So Alabama would host Utah. And this is all on the same day, and then say on a Thursday. And then later that Thursday, or before then, like Alabama, Utah may be the nightcap. But in that same day, you'll have Baylor and Notre Dame playing in Alabama. So you have like these not bubbles, but pods where you bring 4 different fan bases to a campus and you let them experience life on this campus. And so Michigan being the number 2 team in the CFP, they would get to host a game. They would end up hosting, say, Pittsburgh. And then also in Ann Arbor that same day will be Oklahoma State and Ole Miss. So you get to experience these other locations that you'll never get to experience. And plus, you have all these different fan bases coming together. And so you'll have, you can do this over a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where Alabama is Thursday, Michigan is Friday, Georgia is Saturday, and Cincinnati is Sunday, because Cincinnati would be hosting a game in this as well. And this is all decided all over a couple of days, broadcast on ESPN, CBS, Fox in May, the dog days of college football. I am holding television specials to announce where everybody is playing and who they are playing, and it keeps college football in the mind's eye of the nation. So I'm totally against neutral site games, but if we can't get rid of them, let's lean into them, but on campuses.
I see 2 issues with that. Number one, a stadium like Alabama, which has natural grass turf, you are tearing the crap out of that turf after the first game, and so then the second game is going to start on a very rough kind of surface. But, and then you run into injury risk, you run into, the field impacting the game kind of risk. I mean, we've been down on the field after a game on a grass field, and it's pretty torn up in a lot of cases.
And hotels.
And the fact that, Notre Dame and Utah, do fans from Notre Dame and Utah, are you really going to fill the stadium with fans from Notre Dame and Utah saying, where I want to go for Labor Day weekend? Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Because yes, it's far, and yes, other than football, there's not a lot to do. However, I have never felt my blood literally boil inside my veins from heat and humidity before, so that's really an experience I can't pass up. I think you're going to have trouble filling the stadium, and then if you get, if the state, I think you're going to run into the issue that you have where, when Kentucky is at an NCAA regional, and their fans have 60% of the tickets for the game, then the game before them or the game after them, the stadium is half full, and most of the crowd is disinterested, and it's just small pockets of fans. I think you're going to run into a couple issues with that, just in terms of atmosphere, in terms of travel, in terms of hotel, in terms of field quality. At Ohio State, at Michigan, at places with field turf, that's not a concern. Hotels are still a concern. The travel's still a concern. So I think that's a terrible idea, Tona. I'm very sorry to tell you, it is a terrible idea.
No, your concerns are valid. I agree with some of them, not all of them, but I can't imagine like Alabama loses and like their fans that had a quarter of the tickets or whatever. Because again, like we'd have to decide who's going to buy these tickets, but you'll have empty pockets of fans. I understand that. I get that. Might have to revisit this. Like this was not my idea. I just heard this from Kevin Warren, so I thought I'd bring it to the.
all the pieces are coming into place now. Now I get it. I do like the idea of a opening weekend, bracket buster type event where you're pairing up these teams. But have the team that goes to Alabama just play Alabama, and then have a separate thing, and make it a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing, or even into Monday. Make it expand it to 20 teams. You've got a 6:00 game and a 9:30 game every single night, or a 5:00 and an 8:30, or whatever the spacing you want to have is. You play 2 games a night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Make it 10 games. Top 20 teams, pair them off however you're going to pair them off, whether it's 1 versus 20 and 2 versus 19 and so on. However you want to do it. Yeah, I love the idea of that. And, I think you and I are probably looking for ultimately a lot of the same stuff in terms of let's see more high quality interconference games.
I just like the idea of there being 4 fan bases all in the same vicinity, but, that work because it's great in basketball, but you're talking about 20,000 seats or 50,000 seats rather than 80, 90, 100,000. So I get that.
All right, so let me give you my first one, because I think we're looking at trying to do some of the same stuff here. If it's me, let's stop pretending that UTEP and UMass and Southern Mississippi are playing the same game as Ohio State and Alabama. They're not. Let's stop pretending. The group of 5 splits off from the Power 5. And if we want to make this the Power 4 and the group of 6, I'm okay with that too. But let's just say group of 5, Power 5 for the time being. Your regular season, the Power 5 conferences, your regular season is 8 games against your conference and 1 game against one team from each of the other leagues. So Ohio State plays 8 Big Ten teams. They play 1 SEC team, 1 ACC team, 1 Big 12 team, 1 Pac-12 team. Then you get, at the end of the year, you have an 8-team playoff. We no more conference championship games. We don't need them. It's fine. 8-team college football playoff, 5 auto bids. So same thing that you were talking about. You win your conference, you're in the tournament, you're in the Big Ten, or you're in the college football playoff. So even if you lose some of those non-conference games because you're playing good teams, that's okay. That doesn't prohibit you from getting into the college football playoff. 3 at-large teams. But now, unlike now where it's, we're looking at it and it's just like, well, everyone knows the SEC team would beat the Pac-12 team or the ACC team or the Big 10 team because they're the SEC. Everyone knows this. Well, let's see it. Let's see the SEC teams go on the road to Utah. Let's see the SEC teams go on the road to Oklahoma State, to Ohio State, to Penn State. Let's see it. And then if the SEC comes out and dominates everyone, great. You can have all 3 at-large bids. If you don't, well, then I'm very sorry. You've got to earn it on the field. And if you didn't earn it on the field, if Texas A&M goes to Ohio State and gets their tails kicked, and they lose to Oregon, for example, Well, I'm very sorry, but you're not getting an at-large bid, because even if you beat the rest of the SEC and you finish second in the SEC, well, if you lost a couple of those non-conference games and you didn't win your league, sorry, you don't get in. Like, you got to earn your way in. Let's make this a meritocracy. So no more conference championship games. Then you get your first round of playoffs at home sites, semifinals at bowl sites, and the national championship. Tony, where is the national championship always played? Of course it is. Who could possibly argue with that?
And you don't even we don't even need to make that a rule. That's just common sense. That's just understood. I like that. I like the idea of a schedule like that. And I assume because that's something you could even work out where everybody gets 6 home games, everybody gets 6 road games.
That's something that's my next bullet point. So let's just fold that in right here. No more advanced scheduling. We're not scheduling games in 2057. Like, no, that's stupid. Knock it off. Your non-conference schedule is done that year. Like, we'll do it. We'll take your, essentially your idea. Maybe not in May, but in advance, you have 2 home games and 2 road games in that non-conference schedule. And okay, we'll just say you're going to play at home on September 2nd. You're going to play on the road on September 9th. You're going to play at home on September 16th. You're going to play on the road on September 23rd. Whatever the dates are that year. So you can book your hotels, you can staff your events, and then in April, let's say April, May, whatever, here is our big scheduling event. And, the czar of college football decides, okay, this year I want to see Ohio State play Alabama and Clemson and USC and Oklahoma. And they get 2 of those at home, 2 of those on the road. And you can kind of stack it like a bracket buster where, you've got the best teams playing the best teams, or, a Big Ten ACC challenge kind of thing. And maybe the Ohio State's not playing the best team from every other conference, but they're playing Georgia, and then also North Carolina State, and also Texas, and also Washington, or pick your school where you're not necessarily playing number one all the way across the board, because that's gonna be a brutally tough schedule. But you got to play at least a couple. If you're number 1, you're probably playing at least 1 or 2 of the number 1s, and maybe a number 2 and a number 3 in one of those other leagues, where you're playing a very, very good schedule. And let's see. I mean, I go back to Michigan had a year, I think in the late 80s or early 90s, where they played just a brutal non-conference schedule. It was like Notre Dame and Florida State and Miami, I think, one year. And I think they lost all 3 of them. And then they still went on to win the Big Ten and go to the Rose Bowl and all of that. So it doesn't, if that happened this year, you still would make the national champ. You would still make the college football playoff tournament because you won the Big Ten. So it doesn't necessarily preclude you. But, if you want, I think my biggest piece of this is if you want to get an at-large berth in the college football playoff, you really need to earn it.
I like the idea. So we're talking 5 Power 5 conferences, probably 70 teams at that point.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking 14 teams a conference, where you could just take those 70 teams and put them into 4 tiers. And then you play a team from tier 1, a team from tier 2, a team from tier 3, a team from tier 4. Everybody does that. That way, Ohio State doesn't have to play the best team from every conference, or, Vanderbilt doesn't have to play the worst team. You play randomly, or however I want to set it up, a team from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Everybody is kind of even in that way. But also by doing this, not, like months in advance or whatever, we see the NCAA tournament, how they will come up with some cheeky matchups. You can do the same thing. Like, we're going to, Urban Meyer takes a job at Notre Dame. It's like, we're Ohio State, Notre Dame, your first week, where you just have these things like, this would be interesting, because it is your job to make this television product as pleasing, as interesting to the entire nation as possible. So you would be able to do that. But also, I think you don't want to load up too many teams, because there is some wear and tear if you're playing an Alabama and a Georgia type every week. So I do think you have to have some time in there for development as well. That's why my idea, Tom, to borrow yours, but add in the tiers in terms of the non-conference schedule.
Yeah, that's not bad. And, even if you're a number 1 team, you get a number one and two number twos, or I mean, yeah, I like that idea because having a weaker team on the schedule where you get you get to play all your young guys, I can see some value in that. One other thing that I didn't explicitly say, but was sort of probably implied to you, when you don't have a conference championship game, that's one less big physical game that's potentially on your schedule at the end. It also allows you to maybe spread, throw an extra bye week in there to account for the fact that you've got maybe a little bit more distant travel in, at least one more game where you're really getting on an airplane going somewhere far away. And also just if you're playing better competition, if you're playing, if Alabama is playing Penn State instead of playing the Citadel one week, like, well, you're going to get a little more beat up. So have a little bit more leeway in terms of time to feel, to get better and heal up a little bit in the middle of the season. So you have a better overall, quality of product. Like that's what we're looking for here. More competitive games, more, do you think the TV industry would be interested in this? I mean, I think the TV industry would be incredibly interested in the schedule release that turns the Big Ten or the college football schedule release into like the World Cup draw, where it's like everyone in the world is watching this. That becomes a massive event during the off season. And then, the games themselves, I'm very, no disrespect to the Arkansas State Red Wolves, but tell me, would you rather see Ohio State play even a mid-level ACC team? Would you rather see Ohio State play Miami or Florida State or North Carolina State? Or would you rather see them play Arkansas State? I think you're going to have a lot more eyes there. And then that also, the ESPN has made kind of a thing of conference championships, and you're rooting for your conference in the bowl games. And that's, it's definitely not because that we want you to watch more games because we need you to watch games. It's definitely because this is the ultimate strength, measure of conference strength. Well, now you're doing it at a time when conference strength really would matter in these conversations with, heading into the playoff, where that may help determine some of the at-large bursts in the college football playoff. So you really would be invested in how Penn State did against LSU or how Michigan did against Oregon or, whatever the other matchups were.
And you're determining these 8 playoff spots by rankings?
Yeah. Definitely not a committee. Definitely not a committee. Let's. I think the committee has shown that the committee is not up to the challenge. I really don't care for the committee and the way that works. And I remember I'm old enough to remember the BCS era and going, this is the dumbest way to determine a thing ever. But yeah, don't worry. College football will keep digging and find a dumber way. So yeah, let's go back to some kind of a BCS type formula where it's just, this is an objective criteria that Kirk Herbstreit getting on TV and getting all weepy about Georgia or whatever is not going to impact anything. Let's have this be a really objective criteria. Figure in conference matchups. Here's how your conference did against the other conference. Here's how your conference did against the 3 other conferences. Let's do this as subjectively as we can, and as objectively as we can, and you go from there.
And as I always say, when people say, well, somebody's going to be left out, a quality team will be left out or whatever, but it'll be the 9th team or the 7th team. Like it's going to be somewhere in there, as opposed to the way the BCS used to be, where, the second best team could be left out or the best team could be left out for the second best and third best team. And at least now with the Final Four the way it is, you're still getting at least the 3 best teams in there. So it's a little bit better, but when you have 8 teams, you have a better chance of actually having the best team in there. So even if you maybe miss out on the actual 8th team and instead you've put the 9th team in there, I don't think it's the end of the world. And again, Tom, these are all first round games on campuses.
Yes, of course. Yes, 100% first round games on campus sites. Yes, even if it might snow. Yes, that's okay. That is a thing you can play. It turns out you can play football in the snow. That's okay. Stadiums in the north actually, in fact, can. If maybe you throw a little insulation on some pipes, and then you can play football in a stadium in the north. There is no reason to play non-conference games. Non-conference games in Jerry World or whatever. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. We are playing home and homes. That is how it is. I am very sorry, NFL stadium owners. You will just have to be content with playing NFL games.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Although, Tom, is it okay to leave it up to the commissioner or the school's ADs if they would like to move that game to, say, Lucas Oil Stadium?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm with you. First round games have to be on campuses. You need to keep the campuses involved if you're going to make this more about the money. At least pretend that you aren't. Keep a little bit still about the collegiate aspect. One that I have here, Tom. We're putting microchip technology in the footballs and on the chains and on the goal lines, and we're going to eliminate measurements. You'll know right away if it's a first down or not, based on when the whistle blows and all of that good stuff. I think there's so much congestion at the goal line. There's no reason not to have the ability to see through all of that now and just go with the ball being across the line, thanks to science and technology. You don't need the human error to get a touchdown wrong. Human error is, we're talking about a ball or a strike. We're not talking about the actual point of the game, which is to score. And even in baseball, I think you could remove the human error if you want to. But there's no reason not to. There's no reason to keep this a guessing game anymore, I don't think. And you see tennis with what they've done years and years ago, being able to get those out of bounds, and everybody just accepts it. And it's like it's made things better. And you won't be costing anybody any jobs because you still need somebody there to hold the chains. You just don't need them to run out onto the field, and you don't need delays and instant replay for did he cross the line? Did he not? It's known, and so I think the technology exists. I think the USFL has had something going on about this, or some other of these spring leagues have done something about that. But I think that's one thing that I would do. It's college football. It's time to move into the future.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. This becomes an easier sell as well if we do split the group of five and the power five, like we're talking about, because UMass may not have the ability to put the radar tracking stuff or whatever technology they're using to put that in their stadium. Ohio State has the money to do that. So yeah, whatever the technology is, we are there. Welcome to the future. Yes, you do not need to have two sticks with a chain of exactly 10 yards in between them anymore. Let's get a little more precise with these things. Baseball is obviously moving in that direction. There have been the robot ump conversations for a long time. It feels like they're getting a little more precise. But with baseball, that's radar tracking. So they can measure the spin of the baseball and down to the inch where it is inside outside. Did the umpire make the correct call? All that kind of stuff. There's no reason you can't use that for football. I think one thing that you're going to run into, it probably won't be exactly the same technology because baseball is radar because the ball is out in the open. When you have a ball in the middle of a scrum somewhere, I'm sure there is technology to, a laser or something that will, measure when the ball crosses the goal line with, the chip in the ball. I think soccer has something like that. Isn't there a chip in the soccer ball or something?
And my thing is you would have a connection between the chains or between the pylons. And if the ball crosses that, it would know, basically. Like I'm not a science guy, but I'm pretty sure it would be like the invisible fence type stuff. If it crosses, you shock the ball.
I love it. Yes, there's your answer. The invisible fence for college football. There you go. Now we've solved everything. But yeah, in principle, yes, I agree with all of that because then in baseball, when they're talking about the robot umps, I think they've tested it in the minors or in the independent leagues, and they have another umpire. They have an actual umpire there, where if you get a real wonky call, or if there's if the thing just misses the pitch for whatever reason, you have an umpire there who can call balls and strikes if you need to. But this thing is theoretically doing it at a higher level of precision. So yeah, you can still have the guys there with the sticks if the first down laser or whatever goes down, you can still do it the old-fashioned way, but there's no real reason to do it the old-fashioned way. If we can be more precise, then ref kind of runs in on an angle and goes, here versus here. You're coming down to a precision of inches, and even on replay, sometimes it's hard to tell. Let's use technology. Just get it right. I think that's all we really want here is just get the call right. Don't have, the human element is it's a wonderful thing to say, when your team benefits from a bad call, but man, you are big mad when the human element says no. In fact, the guy who caught the pass and took 5 steps in the 2019 Fiesta Bowl. In fact, he that was an incomplete pass. You don't always appreciate the human element in those moments. So overall, you're better off, not relying on the human element in whatever ways you can if technology can replace it.
And you do need them, even something as simple as the shot clock, which should be fine all the time, sometimes goes out. And so the game clock, the play clock in college football goes out, and the refs have to keep it on the field and tell the players. So it's like there is still this need for people, but if we can get stuff right, let's do it.
Totally agree there. My next one, we kind of hinted at it earlier, promotion and relegation. It's time. Let's do it. Because here's the thing: you will have, you'll talk about at the end of it, at the end of a college football season. If you really just focus on the college football playoff, and that's sort of where all of the narrative in the sport kind of trends at this point, that means there's 12 teams in the running for the college football playoff, maybe by late October, give or take. If you have relegation, you got a whole bunch of other teams fighting for their lives and really, really trying to stay up if you have followed English soccer at all, for example, those promotion battles and those relegation battles, that really, really adds a lot of drama to the end of the season. I have made a poor choice. Following in my choice of the Mets as a baseball team, I chose Fulham as my English Premier League team. And since then, they have been up and down, I think 3 times. They're back up this year, but you get in the final weeks of the season, and if you're on the cusp of going down, it is incredibly dramatic because it's these are games that in baseball, if you're a 60 and 102 win 60 and 102 team, the end of the season games don't matter at all. Here it is life and death. Will they stay up? Will they go down? You could bring that to college football too, where you want to talk about the end of the season Northwestern Illinois game, and that's a relegation game. So not only are they playing for Abe Lincoln's hat, they're also playing to not go down to the MAC when Toledo comes up or whatever from the Big Ten. This is one of the things that will never, ever, 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 ever happen, but it would make the sport a lot better because you have a lot of teams who are where they are right now because they made friends with people 110 years ago. And why is Vanderbilt in the SEC? Well, because they've always been in the SEC. Does Vanderbilt deserve to be in the SEC? Does Vanderbilt fit at all in the SEC in basically any way? No, they don't. But they made friends with these people 100 years ago, so therefore they're in the SEC. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier. Let's make this meritocracy. You want to win? Win. Let's see you. You want to stay up? Stay up. And you can kind of pair some of the conferences together, where if you were in the Big Ten, you would go down to the MAC. If you're in the Pac-12, you go down to the Mountain West. If you're in the in the SEC, you go down to the Sun Belt. If you're in the ACC, you go down to Conference USA. There's one more that I'm forgetting now, of course, but whoever the Big 12 would be paired with, either way, you have. And then now you already said CUSA, yeah. Well, there's another conference. Rest assured, allow me to assure the WAC is not a Division One, is not a FBS conference. So no, but allow me to assure you, there is another conference out there somewhere. So, the AAC, yes, the AAC. So I guess the Atlantic, the ACC and the AAC would be together. So I guess the Big 12 and CUSA would go together. So that's and then you have these teams have an opportunity to move up. If UCF wants to claim they're going to win a national championship, okay, great. You just got promoted from the AAC to the ACC. Now go play Clemson. Let's see. And let's operate the sport like a meritocracy as opposed to a little bit of an old boys club, which is kind of what it is right now.
The problem with the old boys clubs is that they never want to put themselves at risk. So like you said, it would never happen because they would have to agree to allow it to happen. And I don't know how it happened in English soccer other than that's how it started. Like this is how it is. And nobody was in a position to give up, 60 or 100 or 40 years of power. It was probably, I assume it had to be decided on very early at the outset of those leagues where it just become, that's how it is. That's how those leagues are. And here it's like, no, we were born here. So this is how it is. And Purdue and Illinois. Now people will say, but you can't punish the basketball team by making them leave the MAC. But realize schools play in different conferences for different sports. So, Big Ten hockey forever was not Big Ten hockey, and Ohio State played in a different hockey league. So I don't think that's a hang up in terms of, this is all a hang up, but I'm saying, like, if you want to get technical, you can play in different conferences and different sports. Notre Dame is in the Big Ten in hockey. They're in the ACC in basketball. They were in the Big East in basketball. Are they still in the Big East? No, I don't know. But they have their things where they go and do different things. So I don't think that is well, actually, like, so I'm with you there, Tom. I think it would be interesting. What is the, if you get relegated, what are you playing for then? Is there I think like the conference, I think there should be a conference, group of 5 national championship.
I think you have basically a mirror image postseason at the level below. And then if you're UCF or you're Houston or you're one of those other teams, Boise State, you can win a national championship. And then you can move, if you win your division or you win your conference, then you can move up. One team moves up, one team moves down maybe every year. So you don't have complete chaos. I will tell you, I just read a really good book called The Club, How the English Premier League Became the Wildest, Richest, Most Disruptive Force in Sports. It talks all about that. The history of promotion and relegation, it goes back basically since the beginning of the sport. And, you can have a tier 4 team there, which is basically like a pub team, like a semi-pro pub team, and you keep winning. You win every year. Eventually, you will make it to the Premier League. It doesn't really happen that way. Usually a Premier League team will have terrible financial troubles and like plummet through multiple levels of the sport. So it's easier to drop than it is to move up. But it is, to your point, it's that way because it's always been that way. But even there, the big clubs semi-recently, last year maybe, were trying to form the Super League, where it was just going to basically be the teams that were always the good ones. They were just going to stay. They're going to operate separately from the Premier League and operate in their own thing where they didn't have to worry about that anymore. So yes, you will never get people to vote against their self-interest. So this won't ever happen, but it would be a lot of fun if it did.
I wonder if that will be one of the things that the NCAA football game will allow.
Well, for a while they let you do a playoff in that game.
Mm-hmm. You could change conferences and you do a playoff. I don't know if they'll go so far as relegation, but hey, I mean, you've had 2 years to work on it. Like, have some fun with it. Because they did give you, like, that was back when the BCS was in play. They're like, hey, we'll give you a playoff. So why not? Tom, I got a couple of just like kind of one-offs, basically. I'm bringing back Thursday night college football. Screw the NFL. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of college football kowtowing to the NFL. Like, we're going to have Thursday night football. And if our playoff games or our bowl games are on Sunday, I don't have a huge, like, I'm not afraid of you, NFL. All right. Now, maybe that's just me. But at least, on the very least, I want Thursday night football back. I'm tired of there not being anything to look forward to on Thursdays. In fact, I could see a scenario where I have college football on almost every day of the week.
This is another one that won't ever happen because you know who actually makes the decisions in college football in terms of scheduling? TV networks. You know who doesn't want to schedule against the NFL? TV networks, including some of the networks that are probably airing the Thursday night NFL games. So yes, this won't ever happen, but yes, I'm, as someone who will always choose to watch the MAC game, as opposed to whatever, crappy Jaguars-Lions game or whatever is on, I will always watch the Northern Illinois Ball State game over the Jaguars-Lions. But I recognize that I'm not in the majority on that particular point, so TV networks also realize that. So yes, file this away as it will never happen, but it would be awesome if it did.
Tom, fumbling the ball out of the end zone is no longer a touchback.
I did not have this on my list, but spiritually, that this should have been on my list. Yes, 100%. Put it back on the 2-yard line or the 3-yard line or at the 5-yard line or the 10-yard line, however much you want to punish them. It is stupid that this is the one exception to the rule. If you fumble the ball out of the 1-yard line, you get it at the 1-yard line. Why would you immediately turn the ball over if you fumble it out of the end zone? Terrible rule. Yes, that needs to be fixed.
Kids getting free at all bowl games prior to December 30th.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm fine with that.
Like, you need more butts in the seats in these bowl games. Let the kids go for free. No ejections for targeting, but if you get called a second time, every successive targeting call by a single player, the penalty gets doubled. So you get 15-yard penalty, 30-yard penalty, third time is a 60-yard penalty. And I'm not totally against it carrying over to other games, like to the next game or something like that, but I'm tired of the ejections.
Yeah, the ejections, it feels like the targeting rule needs to be tweaked in such a way where it's got to be like incidental versus malicious, which, the argument against that, the old 5-yard versus 15-yard face mask rule, where they got rid of the 5-yard because if you have a 5-yard to 15-yard, virtually anything except for the most egregious is going to be ruled as a 5-yard. So they didn't want to do that because of the importance of head injuries and all that kind of stuff. So that's why they don't do that with the incidental versus intentional or whatever, however you want to designate those two things. But it feels like go to the flagrant 1, flagrant 2 kind of rules like the NBA has. Like that you can make any an objective decision on this is this one was worse than others. Shaun Wade slightly ducking his head and hitting Trevor Lawrence's helmet in the 2019 Fiesta Bowl. Like that very much should have been whatever the level 1 was. Like, okay, if that is technically targeting by the rule book, okay, that's fine. 15-yard penalty, no ejection. I'm open to suggestions on what tier 2 is. Make the tier 2 a 30-yarder instead, or a 45-yarder. The issue you're going to have with doubling the penalty every time is if you target someone while you're at your own 5-yard line, you can only back the ball up so much. You're not putting the ball in row 7 of the stands, so that's the issue you're going to run into there. But I agree that you need some kind of a tiered system that does not automatically include ejection. I would be fine with your first targeting, yellow card, red card system like soccer. Boy, we are all over the sports map today. But you get your first targeting, that's your yellow card, that's your warning. If you get another yellow card, you're booted from the game. Or if you get a red card, you get a tier 2, severe targeting, you get booted right away. I would be fine with something like that.
Instead of the yellow card, red card soccer, let's just stick with like the basketball point system where after a certain number of points you get ejected. I think people have had enough soccer right now. So let's just stick to basketball, something like that. I just right out of the gate, I don't think you should be ejected, and I'm not convinced that you should be ejected for the first half of the next game either, if that takes place in the second half. My last one, Tom, and then I'll let you do whatever you need to do. I better not catch any wind of recruits signing with any collective. Better not hear about it. Better not see it. I better not see some article on The Athletic about, we know a guy who's signed for $8 million because as the czar, like I don't need a preponderance of the evidence. I don't need, I have my own measurements on whether I think something is hinky or shady. And I think these are things that are pretty easy to decide because if it's in my face, I see it. Just keep it out of people's faces, I guess, is what I'm saying there. I don't like recruits getting their deals before they actually play. I can't say play a game, but before they even step on campus.
I guess I understand where you're coming from there, but I don't. I mean, this is one of these that won't happen because you're gonna, in order to have any kind of restriction on that. Well, first of all, schools are gonna want to put this out there because this is marketing for them. That quarterback X got so many $1 million. That's a marketing thing for them, so it's gonna leak regardless. And you would like a bunch of newly wealthy 17 and 18-year-old guys to not splash the pot a little bit, not splash it around. Best of luck to you on that one, friend. There is a reason that fast cars are a chosen vehicle, if we will, for the payment on some of these NIL deals. Subtlety is not often a particularly strong suit among that particular set of males 17 to 23, let's say. So yeah, I wish you the very best of luck with this proposal.
I will be successful because again, I don't need proof. So therefore, and again, try and stop me. Come after me, bro. Did you have any, Tom, that you just little one-off type things?
I have one, and we can work on the specific scale on this. What I have is punting on 4th and 1 in plus territory is -1 point. Really, I think spiritually they should be punting on 4th and 3 in plus territory is -1 point. Punting on 4th and 2 in plus territory is -2 points. Punting on 4th and 1 in plus territory is -3 points. And punting anytime inside the 40-yard line is -5 points. Who says no, other than Kirk Ferentz?
So is this going to be like is if you punt from 4th and 1 from your own 38, is that like a 4-point punt? Like, or 5-6 point? Like, is it the 5 points and the 3 points? It costs you 8 points to punt? Why would you punt? You shouldn't punt, Tom.
Yeah, Tony, there you go. You got to the correct conclusion. Good job, bud. It only took 8 points, but you got there. Yeah, like come on. Let's not. We don't need to play football like we're living in 1994 anymore. It's okay. We can apply the knowledge that we have learned as a society, and we can play the game the right way. Stop punting in plus territory on 4th and short.
What about this? If you from wherever you punt, say inside, say 40 and in, if it ends up a touchback, you get the ball where it was punted.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
Now, you can't do that everywhere on the field because if you boom a 70-yarder, it's like, well, but, maybe even in 35 and in or something like that, where you should be punished for punting in that situation. And so I think that's not a bad, it just goes right back where it's kind of a different kind of touchback, but we know there are odd rules for touchbacks when you fumble it. So why not if you punt it? And it's like, well, no, it just goes back to where it was. Now the other team has it. But why? Because it's a touchback, duh. Like, that's duh.
Yeah, I like that one because, there's a way if you're up by 13 points that, punting in a spot where you're giving up 2 points is not really going to be a big difference, or giving up 1 point is not really going to be a big difference. That really changes the, and it's probably punting in plus territory or punting from the, the 45, your own 45 in, so you've got 55 yards or something like that. I like that. I can see that being, you do that, you punt from the 50, goes in the end zone, well, they bring it out to the 50. That's fine. I think you have, the one issue you have there is what you really want to disincentivize is the punts from the plus 37 or whatever, those, which you're getting punished less for that than punting from midfield, which is, slightly more defensible in certain circumstances. So I'm not sure you have the incentive structure set up quite right there, but it's, I find your ideas intriguing and wish to subscribe to your newsletter.
Because if you punish them for a touchback at from punting from 37, you're going to see teams master the 13-yard punt. And it's just going to be just the saddest, terriblest thing you've ever seen, where it's just like just a little kick to keep it out of the end zone. Is that what we really want football to become, Tom?
You're going to have the specialty punter who punts it just straight up an elevator shaft. Just this went 12 yards forward, but 1,000 miles in the air, so that the gunners could run under it and fair catch it at the the 15-yard line. Ugh.
You know how hilarious it is watching anybody, any non-kickers or punters kick or punt the ball. What if if you're going to punt inside the 40, you have to use one of your offensive linemen to do it, and then if you use one of the offensive linemen, you won't get punished if it's a touchback. But if you choose to use the punter, they will punish you.
I'm all for large humans doing more things on the football field. So, you get a 5th down if you have a nose tackle run the football on 4th down. Like any pass or run where the recipient is a nose tackle, not a 3 tackle. I need a nose tackle. That 4th down does not count, and you can get a second opportunity if you fail to make it the first time.
Football does need more spin agains or roll again type of thing. That's a good point, Tom. I like that. Anything else? I think I'm all spent. Any others? Are you good?
I'm good. I think we have fixed the sport of college football. Can't wait to see it on the field this fall.
Boy, that would be a mess. A fun mess, but a mess nonetheless. So that will do it then. I want to thank you all for tuning in. As always, make sure to check out the rest of the shows on the network. Tom with the Morning Scoop every day, Monday through Friday. You got Kevin Noon with the Big Noon Kickoff. You got Mark Givler and Bill Green with the Gives in the Bank. And you've got Alex Gleitman's Around the Oval. Check out all of those shows. Just search Buckeye Scoop on your podcast platform of choice, and you'll find us all there. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys later.